A new year has begun. The Cup Series has hit the high banks of Daytona in speed weeks. The Coke Series took their first green flag of the season on Tuesday, and tonight, more than 1,000 drivers begin their road to the Coke Series. The track they have to conquer first is no cakewalk. The high banks of Daytona International Speedway, the home of the great American race, has provided so much great racing over the years, and we're bound to have more great racing here tonight. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to FTF.GG's live coverage of the first round, the first race of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. Glad to have you along for the ride. Jacob Pitts, James Pike, I'm forgetting names already. I know who you are. Caleb Hoffman joins me here in the virtual booth. Pike, we'll start with you. So much going into this. We didn't start last season at a plate track. We started at Las Vegas, which we'll be at in 2 weeks' time. So we're kind of going back to our roots a little bit, starting the season with a plate track in Daytona.
We have started with a plate track in Daytona for many years in this series, but we've never started this series this early. That's the biggest thing, I think, to note, which means the drivers are going to have a few more races in this first round to potentially make mistakes. In this race, you can kind of treat as a wild card in a sense, because it almost acts as an extra race compared to last season in particular, where we started at Las Vegas 2 weeks later. So it'd be interesting to see how drivers play this track tonight with that in mind, never mind the fact that for most people, the road to $300,000 actually starts right here.
There's no doubt about it. And Caleb, let's take us into a look at it from a driver's perspective here. First race, a lot of anxiety, a lot of nerves. What's the game plan going into a race like this? You've got 80 laps up on the board in these trucks here at Daytona. Do you just want to hope you have a teammate in your split? Do you want to charge to the front? Do you want to lay back? What's running through your mind as we're going through qualifying right now, getting set to go racing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything right now, it's almost just a chess match for you. You're trying to set yourself up. This whole round, there's no playoffs or anything like that. It's purely just points. So that's the biggest factor here tonight is just get points, make sure you get to the next round, and make sure you don't kill your chances for $300,000.
Let's take a look at this road that I was talking about. We start it here tonight from the virtual Daytona International Speedway, but it branches out and it moves on. Here's the ladder for the eNASCAR iRacing series. We start with the qualifying iRacing series. Round one begins tonight and every other week here pretty much through the end of May. Open to anybody with a Class A license and a safety rating above 2.0. The top 70 in points from these first 8 races, this first round, moves on to round number 2. Those 7 races will take us through much of the summer, and then at the end of that season, the top 20 out of those 70 move on to the eNASCAR Contender iRacing series. And Pike, we both called, or you called, a lot of the action a season ago in that Contender round. Take us through what to expect there.
Just a lot of really hard racing and a lot of drivers who I think when you get to that level, if you've had some momentum coming into the Contender series, it seems like they find a way to rise to the occasion. Donovan Strauss stands out as the perfect example. He was really, really good in the qualifying series, and then it felt like he just went next level. Same thing with Colin Keister. Colin Keister found another gear. That's the place where the drivers who have skill will separate themselves. Even if they only have 6 or 7 races like they usually do, they'll find a way to make it work.
And of course, with that Contender series, bottom 20 from the Coke series fall in there, and then the top 20 from the eNASCAR qualifying series. At the end of that, everybody comes together. The top 20 from Contender move on to the Coke series. The bottom 20, they have to go through this whole process again next year, and I'm sure there are some that were in the Coke Series a season ago that are roaring and just chomping at the bit to come back and have a shot to get back to the Coke Series next year.
There are, most certainly. But a lot of drivers who also are trying to establish themselves and a lot of new names. We go back to the Donovan Strauss example. 2 years ago, he was, 14, 15 years old. Nobody knew who he was. Took him some time to establish himself, but made his name in this series in particular and dominated, and now he's Coke Series driver for 2022.
Let's take a look at our starting grid for this first race, and Out of our field of 33, only 19 trucks chose to qualify. So a lot of folks going to be starting in the back that decided not to put a time down. Lucas Cram will start in pole position. Wyatt Tinsley lines up to his outside. Of course, he won the top split of the Daytona 500 here on the service last night. Ashton Crowder, Daniel Buttafuoco line up in row number 2. Jonathan Delaney, Will Cooley in row 3. Then Justin Knobloch and Kyle Myers in row 4. Rounding out our top 10, Dmitry Enisev and Jesse Swartz.
Claremont, North Carolina's Landon Huffman starts on the inside of row 6. Barrett Bonner will roll off to his outside. Bonner starts 12th. Eugene Mozganov and Brian Schoenberg back for a round in this level for the first time in almost a decade plus. Will start 14th. Omar Diallo, Michael Rosero, 15th and 16th on the grid. James Houghton and Jacob Harberts rolling off in row 9. Top 20 are completed by Dustin Montgomery and Trevor Edwards.
Yeah, right here we're going to get to Steele Lankford and Jared Torres in the 11th row. Jacob Hall, Will Klein in row 12. Timmy Holmes and Dustin Momborquette. We'll go with that one. Garrett Conrath, Brandon McKissick, Devin Hall, and then Blaze Crawford, row 15. Then we got Eduardo Oliveira, Joseph, Connor Horn, Matthew Thunhorst, and then Michael Frisch rounds out the field, a familiar name for us there.
Hey, how about Michael Frisch just slipping into this field? He starts from the back, and it's almost tradition that he starts toward the back and then has to make his way up through the field. So the engine's about to get fired, and we're going to start rolling off pit road here momentarily. And get this, there they go, and get this first race of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series close to underway. Now, one interesting note here, Pike, 80 laps up on the board. That's the same distance the Coke drivers ran on Tuesday night.
So, for this series, that means this race is going to be a little bit longer than what you normally expect, because you don't necessarily get Coke Series distances here in the Road Pro Series. But 80 laps, 200 miles, 60 miles an hour down pit road. Your fuel window, a little bit shorter than what we had on Tuesday night, right in between 34 to 38 laps. 3 sets of tires available to these drivers in the pits, and up to 3 green-white checkers if we need them. Sometimes we don't, sometimes we do.
We'll have to wait and see. It's unpredictable at Daytona on whether or not you will see those green-white checkers used at the end. Caleb, how about this for you? Do we see the big wreck? Oftentimes here, it's a matter of if not when. Do we see it here tonight in this field of 33?
I think, again, with points kind of being on everybody's mind, the opening stages of this race I expect to be, pretty calm, pretty tame. But as we get towards, that lap 80 mark, I think we are definitely going to have to use those 3 green-white checkers, at least bite into them just a little.
Just have to wait and see as the pace car brings us around through 3 and 4. We're getting set to go racing here from Daytona, and the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series is about to get underway for the first time this year. A lot of great racing coming up on the horizon over the next 8 races. And we hope you stick with us through it all here on FTF.GG. Pace car is in, and Lucas Cram will bring us down. Green flag is in the air. Let's go racing from Daytona. Side by side for that second position, but it's Lucas Cram leading the way on the inside, and for the most part, other than at the top of this pack where you've got 6 or 7 trucks lined up on the outside line, everybody just kind of wants to get organized here.
I think that's the big thing that separates this race from what we saw in the Coke Series race. Most of the Coke Series drivers wanted to stay bunched up in that lead pack, but here there are two very clear and distinct schools of thought. This front group here, everybody in the top 20, they want to try and control this race from the front and avoid the wrecks that happen behind them. The rest of this field wants to sit out back and let the wrecks happen in front of them and then just smash on the brakes and drive around them once everybody's all torn to pieces.
The only risk you run in doing that, though, is, well, if they don't wreck, then you're out of the pack, and then you don't have the draft. Caleb, you're going to get lapped if you don't find a wreck at some point in this race.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm just watching right now. You know, good practice for like Lucas Cram up here, kind of just controlling this line. And I'm really interested to see how that develops throughout the night, just who's going to get that practice for the end of this race, you know, developing and keeping those lines in check.
Down the back straightaway, 2 laps complete. Lucas Cram continues to lead the way. He's got the help from the 9 of Wyatt Tinsley, and it's Daniel Buttafuoco trying to lead that outside line. It's a lot different than watching the next-gen cars around this racetrack because this package hasn't really changed much over the last year.
Yeah, very, very similar. I think of what we had before the updates came to the Gen 6 last year, and about this is about what the package was for the Cup cars when the Daytona 500 took place in Sim in 2021. It's very similar in that you don't see quite the crazy moves we're seeing with the next-gen cars, but you can make the outside work, you can make the inside work. The differences in runs probably aren't as great, but there's still an ability to make either lane go depending on how well the trucks in your lane are working together, which is going to be paramount over everything else.
Here they come into turn number 3, and here we go. This is the point, I think, Caleb, where everybody just kind of wants to ride around and make it to the end. Now, with 80 laps on the board, you're going to have to pit more than likely 2 times in this race.
Yeah, and, you know, still just watching right now, as you said, you know, this is going to be kind of the part where we see if they are getting, you know, calmed down. We still have that outside lane forming, but I'm really just looking to see if that's going to, you know, dissipate over these next few laps or if they're going to, you know, try to keep it going, you know, on the outside and make up some time.
Here comes that outside line starting to surge a little bit with Buttafuoco leading that top side. He's got some great help there in the 25 of Will Cooley. The problem is really, at best, they've only been able to get to the side of Lucas Cram. They've never been able to get by him.
Which, to a point, is worth noting, but I also don't think anybody's really... I don't know if trying is the right word, but they're not really pushing the issue, right? Because you do have 75 laps left in this race. That's plenty of time to make your move for the lead when you want to. You don't necessarily have to push it. If anything, you're just trying to set yourself up, maybe save yourself a little bit of fuel here, as it looks like Jacob Hall has lost the draft and is off the back of everybody here.
Yeah, I believe he had some technical issues that caused that. He was not there, at least on my replay, and then appeared and pulled over and got out of the way. So I think some technology, internet issues perhaps plaguing him a little bit, but we'll have to wait and see if maybe the caution gets on his side and he's able to catch back up to the rest of the field. 5 laps complete, coming to finish lap number 6 here off the corner, and we stay double wide for these first 10 rows or so back to the stripe. So here they go back down into turn number 1, still side by side, and Buttafuoco trying the best he can up there. Will Cooley doing a good job at pushing, but it just looks like that inside line of Graham and Tinsley are working together, Caleb.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm still just, you know, trying to see what this outside lane is thinking, you know. As I said, I was, you know, really expecting this thing to dissipate over these next few laps, and here we are, and they're still, you know, hard charging on the outside. I think it just kind of goes back to that, you know, ancient proverb, it feels like. You know, you can't win the race on lap 5, but you can absolutely lose it, and these guys right now are just trying to fight all they can for position right now. Kind of, you know, just a surprising move for me.
And, you know, we've seen it happen time and time again where you do lose it early on instead of coming away with the win. early, but I mean, sometimes you can just spin, come back to the front, and win the thing anyway. Botafuoco at the line there that last time by was so close of getting by Lucas Cram at start finish. Couldn't quite do it. He's going to pull dead even here off the corner once again.
That was really, really nice work there. Outside lane, got a good run, and Botafuoco potentially maybe going to be clear, but no, not quite. But you can see they're already trying to start pinching, start side drafting. That's one thing I've noticed here in the last few laps. That gap between the outside and the inside line is starting to get a little bit tighter. So they're trying to control things. Just maybe drivers on pit road early.
Already? Guys, it's lap 8. Coming to lap 9, and we've got a good maybe half a dozen, maybe a dozen to pit road. Landon Huffman, Justin Oblock, Timmy Holmes, Jared Torres is on there. Omar Diallo is on pit road. So we've got a good 6 trucks that have decided to come in early and really kind of complicate this strategy game. Now, I know in the years of being a Bobby Gerhart fan and watching the ARCA series here, they also run 80 laps. They often do funky things with pit strategy, especially early on, to try and set them up for later on in the race.
Well, if you think about it, I want to jump in here because you think about it, you do the math. We're working lap 8 now, so give yourself, 72 to go. Split that down the middle. What number do you leave with? 36. So this is honestly probably your primo strat. If in theory we go green the entirety of this race, which is possible, these drivers that just came down pit road are probably going to stand to benefit the most.
Yeah, and I mean, just spitballing here, but we were talking about how 80 laps is, that's a tad bit longer than what these guys usually run in the qualifier series. So I mean, maybe do you think they're feeling a little more comfortable, with possibly making a mistake here early on, maybe chancing it a little more with that, extended lap? Yeah.
I'm intrigued. The only thing that makes sense to me is the fact that they were able to get a group of them, and it was 5 or 6 trucks that decided to make the turn. It wasn't 1 or 2. So obviously there was some organization that coming into this, as long as we keep it green to start, we're going to pit on the early side no matter what the rest of the pack does.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly just I'm trying to figure out, maybe there's some element of mind games going on here because, maybe they're hoping, this lead pack is kind of trying to wrap their mind around it like we are right here up in the booth right now.
10 laps are complete, 70 to go. And this outside line has not given up. And Pike, I wonder, we've seen out of these next gens that it's a lot tougher to get them to overheat, at least it seems like when you're pushing. I can't imagine it's the same way with the trucks, is it?
No, you're going to have a little bit more room to breathe, I'd say literally and figuratively, with these trucks of the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. A little bit larger radiator openings and a little bit easier to keep these engines cool. We know that general temperature management has been an issue with the next-gen cars. That's why they added the slots on the rear windows and that vent right in the dead center of the windshield. But the trucks usually don't have that issue.
Down the back straightaway. Still side by side. This side by side battle just continues to go on, and we've seen in some of these other races where the outside line will be up there. They might experiment for a little bit, and then they'll just say, "All right, let's ride around and just try and make it to the end, make it to a green flag pit stop." These guys say, "No, we're going to stay up here. We're going to keep doing this until it works, or we wreck trying." I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, another thing I'm trying to monitor here is just, how are these runs generating? You have a giant spoiler on the back of these trucks. How is that, how is it punching that hole in the air? And are your runs big enough that you're going to be able to make, big, meaty moves? Or are you just going to be kind of stuck, behind the truck you're following? I think that's another thing that we're trying to, just watch and see how it plays out.
Here they come down the back straightaway, and Botafuoco led that last time by. He's peeking his nose out front. He's clear. He drops to the bottom. Maybe he's not so clear. Cram is still there, and he's going to turn him. Around goes Botafuoco through the grass. We stay green. He wasn't clear. He couldn't make up his mind, and he spins it around, and the 35 is in big trouble early on. Still in the grass. We stay green.
no yellow flag, but what kind of tone does that set for the rest of this race? That's the immediate question that I'm asking here. Obviously, if Fuoco and Cram get together, that'll be fun to see those two race each other. But is everybody going to calm down? Is that just going to escalate things a little bit more? Are we going to see more aggressive driving at the front of this field? Again, still 65-ish ballparks laps left in this race, so I'm going to be curious to see how the rest of the field reacts to a move like that.
And Lucas just came over the radio and said, I tried getting out of the gas. I think the biggest issue was Tinsley was pushing Cram there, so even if Cram lifted, he still had somebody just pushing into him and leaning onto him. Let's get a replay here if we can. And believe me, if they wreck, you'll know. Let's take a look at the replay here of this incident up at the front. And here it is. He came down and he wasn't quite clear. And just enough contact to send that 35 around, Caleb.
Yeah, and I mean, that almost kind of reminds me of that, I think it was Brad Keselowski and William Byron a few years ago in the Cup Series where, Keselowski had a car in the back of him and couldn't exactly, make that room for I guess it would have been William Byron to come down. So you see right there, just not really confident in that move himself. And, there's no chance of success when you're not, sure what you're doing there.
And you're spot on with that reference between Byron and Keselowski. The only difference is that Byron may have been clear before, and then Brad still lifted it anyway to give him the spot, and then got hit from behind. Relatively close, though. It's all the same, and that's part of what makes it interesting here at Daytona, as we got more folks coming onto pit road to make their first green flag stops. Brian Schoenberg, James Houghton, Barrett Bonner are all coming onto pit road. Those three. Everybody else stays down on the high banks.
So immediately my mind goes to the math. You add 6 to 16, 22, 52, and that leaves you, 38? 28? Math was never my strongest, and I'll openly admit, but 28 would get you. So, yeah, 28, I think. So, again, essentially one more stop from here for those drivers.
Let me bring my calculator out.
Again, my friends were mathletes in high school. I was not the mathlete. They were the ones that stood up in front of the school and got celebrated for winning 24. I was the one who just sat up in the stands because I was nowhere near them. So,
right. I'm not good at math. I don't pretend that I'm good at math. And that's the reason I'm in broadcasting, because I'm not good at math.
That's verdad, senor. That's verdad.
16 laps are complete here at Daytona International Speedway. We're closing in on a quarter of the way through this first race of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series season. Lucas Cram continues to lead that inside line even after the contact with Puerto Fuoco, and now it's the 25 of Will Cooley leading that outside line. He peeks his nose out in front, but that inside line starts surging back now.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me right now watching this outside line. It not only has it not dissipated, I think it's strengthened since the 35 got spun there. I mean, you figure all that time that goes into, formulating that move to try to clear the inside, and you get spun. You feel like that would dishearten the outside line a little, but no, I mean, they're still hard charging at it, still trying to make it work.
As you saw in that last lap, in our eyes from Daytona that are watching this, Justin Melillo, he's at the actual racetrack watching the duels and also helping us tonight. So thank you to Justin Melillo for doing everything tonight from the Daytona press box. Garrett Conrath, Jacob Hall, Will Klein, they all pitted a lap or so ago. As this battle up front continues to shuffle its way around, as this time by will be 2 laps to a quarter of the way through this race.
Already, which is the terrifying thing. Blinking, you might miss the whole of this thing, because 80 laps gives you time to work, but again, you really think about it, maybe you get a pit cycle to really put together a strategy, but by the time we hit 40, 50 laps into this, you're gonna probably have to know, at least in general, what you're going to do, and you're gonna have to make sure you react on the fly as things happen in front of you, as we get yellow flags or not. You'll have to have your main plan, but you almost have to have 5 or 6 different contingency plans here at Daytona and at Talladega as well, because again, you never know how it's going to pan out, and your plans could shuffle very quickly based upon how the yellows fall and where you end up in the pack.
I've got a question for both of you now. For those that have not pitted yet, have they practiced green flag pit stops here, and are they prepared to go from 180 to 55 miles an hour by the time they get to the cone at the entrance pit road?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to. I mean, like Pike just said, you have to have 5 or 6 different contingency plans. They absolutely have to prepare for a situation in which this race goes green all the way. So, most of these guys, I feel like, have have that amount of preparation, but it'll be interesting to see play out for sure.
Ask them. That's I think that's the best answer, Jacob, because in theory you would hope that they would have, but you don't actually know if they have. That's something only the drivers really have a good handle of. But yes, it's an important point, especially when you have maybe 15, 20 cars, because how many times have we seen people get spun, get wrecked, have something happen to them because contact is made when they come to pit road?
I recall a race at not this version of Daytona, but the 2008 version of Daytona, where on a restart, Cisco Scaramuzza, who works at iRacing, we know him quite well.
We stand
as he was
household.
As he was shifting up through the gears, his clutch pedal broke. Went to the back wall, came off the rig. So he couldn't shift. Whole field wadded it up. About 20 laps later, green flag pit stops. He had to remap his pedals so that way he could remap his clutch because he couldn't fix it, at least right away. Well, he didn't remap his brake pedal properly, so he hits the brakes trying to pit under green and mows over his teammate and wrecks him trying to get onto pit road because he can't slow down in time. The story is just make sure your pedals are tightened to the rig, especially if it's a rig owned by the company that you work for.
Yeah, Cisco was out. I don't know how much on that one, but funny story for sure. I mean, green flag pit stops, man. I mean, it's just they're so fun to watch because there's so many different elements. Not only are you trying to control your own car, but you're battling the track. You're battling everybody else coming onto pit road at the same time. There's no margin for error in those situations. As we have 25 got clear for the lead there.
And Cooley, this time, he kind of shows the field how to do it. Now, notice, only 3 trucks remain on that outside line. Do you sense what I'm sensing here, Pike?
Absolutely.
I'm not totally going to buy that yet, because I think the more likely theory here is that people are, A, just trying to run off laps and make sure that they knock a few of them under their belts so they don't end up wrecked or whatever, but B, getting in line in single file down on that inside lane allows you to save a little bit more fuel because you're not running around as much of the track. It is a little bit longer lap if you run that outside lane. And that's really what I think these drivers, especially those in this pack at the top, call it 20-ish, 22 or so, I think that's really what they're trying to accomplish because, again, we're still a handful over, call it 10, 12 laps away from the proper point in this race where we should have green flag pit stops.
We're getting closer and closer to that point, and you're right about saving fuel, at least on that inside line. It's something you don't often think about at the plate tracks, but that might explain why we've seen everybody go to the bottom instead of everybody go up against the wall, Dale Jr. style here. So here they come through turn 2. Here comes Cram to the outside, and he will go up there. Has a couple of friends with him, and he goes back to the lead with help from the 11 truck of Kyle Myers. So put Cram back out in front. Now the question is here, why in the world would you want to lead if you're trying to save fuel? You're burning more fuel at the head of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm almost just wondering if that was just a power move. He's going to just show that he can do it because he wants to, and it kind of sends a message to everybody else that, hey, I'm the guy to beat right now.
I mean, yeah, but you can't beat everybody if you don't have fuel in the car, right?
Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe he's expecting something here in the next few laps.
Down the back straightaway, we are past the quarter mark. 25 laps will be complete here this time by in this 80-lap race here on FTF.GG, the first round of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series, and we are waiting for the leaders to make their way onto pit road. They still got some time left to do it. The question is, when are they going to pull the trigger?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just a waiting game right now. I mean, I almost feel like once you see one car go, it's going to be just a chain reaction throughout this entire lead pack. Nobody wants to, be out by themselves, but also, nobody wants to be the only one left out.
Yeah, if you get hung out to dry here, you're probably going to be in a bit of trouble by the time this thing's said and done. Lucas Cram continues to lead the way. Will Cooley sits in that second spot, and he's kind of peeking to the outside line. Wyatt Tinsley behind him. Kyle Myers leads that outside line, and of course he was responsible not only for the 25 leading that inside line, but eventually was able to push that 31 back up front to the lead.
Yeah, just been keeping an eye on him all night. He definitely feels like, one of the best pushers in this race so far. Definitely going to be, someone you're going to want to have in your rearview mirror come, 2 laps to go later on.
And some drivers getting shuffled around toward the middle of the pack there. Get everybody back in line. It's only these top 3 on the outside that are kind of breaking this train on the inside. And as soon as I say that, somebody pulls out of line to try and join them up top. That's the 5. Eugene Mozganov up there in the high line.
Yeah, from looking there, it was Blaze Crawford tried to come back down from the top lane. Kind of hesitated a little bit, and it kind of stacked up some of these guys back here. So they were going to the outside to avoid that 26 truck, who was definitely very slowed down.
And you talk about Blaze Crawford, he started in the 35th position. He is 35th position in okay, no, there are 35 cars here, but nonetheless, Crawford started 35th, dead last. He sits 10th right now. Great run for him so far.
Doesn't matter where you start here at Daytona. I think that's the big key. You can find a way to get to the front, get to the back, go pretty much anywhere so long as you stay within the draft or with drafting partners. That's the key. The last thing you want here at Daytona is to be running all by yourself. You run single car here, that's when you seem to find trouble the fastest.
There's no doubt about it as we continue to edge our way closer here to the halfway point from Daytona. And the question I think that's on the mind of a lot of these drivers is whether or not we get a caution before we get to the halfway point. We're 11 laps away from it, 12 laps away from it right now. Of course, other than the single car spin that we saw out of Fukuoka, that's the only incident of the race. So far, everybody's been able to keep their noses clean up to this point.
Jacob, you say that like you're trying to jinx the field almost.
I am not trying to Evan Pasoko this. No. That is not the game plan here.
Well, just call him out on Maine, why don't you, G?
Hey, I mean, if there's going to be a name associated with it, his is the name that gets associated with it. Whether or not it's right, I don't know. But, I mean, sometimes if the shoe fits, although between the tandem of Evan and Blake, and of course you on pit road on Tuesday, certainly had a lot of fun watching the Coke Series race, and both announcers are here watching us in the chat. So hi guys, how you doing? Glad you could be here.
Pasoko and Canless coach status.
I think we're about to see pit stops here. I mean, something's telling me this high line's dead at this point. I mean, everyone's just really kind of spreading apart. I feel like something's coming here in the next few laps for sure.
And it's likely, like you said, going to be pit road that is coming here. So we'll see what happens as these drivers almost are spreading out a little bit more here at the very front. Wyatt Tinsley has a car length on either side of him here.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I was monitoring that too. Is Wyatt Tinsley and Ashton Crowder are both drill spill trucks? So, I mean, there might be some form of communication going on. Ashton might just be trying to give Wyatt Tinsley room as they prepare to make a quick stop on pit road here.
I mean, a big gap as they come off 4. Let's see what they decide to do.
Yeah,
how about nothing? They fooled us. Do you think maybe Wyatt's trying to save fuel here, Pike?
I have to believe they already have been starting to save fuel for a little bit. I would try, I'm never going to complain, especially if you get a long green flag run, trying to stretch this out. If you can push to 37 some way, somehow, go for it. But try and get as much fuel out of this run as you can. Give yourself a buffer if we get a late green-white checker and we don't get another opportunity to come down pit road, or give yourself a chance to maybe set yourself up for the slightest of splashes. And I mean slightest of splashes. It goes anything you can do to stay off of pit road, inevitably going to help if this goes green all the way.
I have to wait and see if it comes off the corner again, and I would expect these guys to pit in the next 4 laps. Now, they could only make it so far, especially those that have been at the front of this pack, like the 25 of Cooley and the 31 rather of Lucas Cram.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of just shocked at how Lucas Cram hasn't already run out of fuel. I mean, it feels like he's been leading this thing the entire race, and he's still up here. So definitely in the next 2 or 3 laps, I'd anticipate these guys making the move to pit road.
Having some drivers come over the radio and say they're coming in. We'll see which drivers decide to pull the trigger. I think I heard Lucas Cram say that he's going another lap, so we'll find out. No, he might be coming in this time.
Yeah, Lucas,
let's find out.
Is pitting.
Here we go. The leader is in. Much of the lead pack stays out, and some at the back decide to come in. This includes Dustin Mulbercat. He makes it there. Rosario, Trevor Edwards is on pit road. Jacob Harberts is on pit road, as well as our leader. Everybody else stays on the racetrack.
Yes. Ooh.
Yeah, that then says to me that Cram was not going to get fuel mileage up in the front of this pack, which, you're leading. You're cutting the air for everybody else. That doesn't surprise me, but I almost wonder, and especially if, let's say Will Cooley comes out and leads this group again, at some point, do you try and cycle to the back to save some fuel and maybe not necessarily be the lead truck in this draft the whole way through a green flag run, knowing that it's going to hurt your fuel mileage?
It's possible, and here come the floodgates. Will Cooley coming to pit road, and he's got a lot of company joining him. They got to get it slowed down to at least 60 miles an hour. Most of them do so, and this is it. Much of this lead pack are on pit road right now. As here we go.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Lucas Cram there on that pit stop, I mean, so he did come over the radio and say he was pitting. So I'm honestly, thinking, was this like a strategy play of some sorts? Do they not want Cram in that lead pack? With the amount of dominance he's kind of been showing early on here.
Most drivers are getting on out of town, and now they're going to just fly off of pit road. And here they all come. They got to stay below the WO line till they get to the back straightaway. As looking for the leaders, they are coming to pit road right now. Wyatt Tinsley leading the rest of everybody down to pit road.
I like where this group sits. I'm always a fan of being on the end of whatever strategy you're trying to hit, or rather the bookends. So I like where the drivers are that came in early. That's going to be Garrett Conrath and everybody. You should see them take over the race lead for a little bit. I like this group here that's on pit road now that stayed out all the way. Whatever strategy you pick, the key is you either want to be the very first one in or the very last ones out of pit road. You get stuck in the middle, you lose the pit advantage. You lose the strategy.
So now that things are going to cycle around, Garrett Conrath is your race leader. Started back in 26th, and he is out in front. 35 laps are complete, and you've got a pack of 8 here at the front of the field that is pretty separate from everyone else.
Yeah, I want to take it back to what was that lead pack real fast. Watching those, that round of pit stops, Wyatt Tinsley overshot his box, and he is now out of the draft. So that's a big thing to monitor here is he has no help right now.
They're going to catch up to the lap truck here of Jacob Hall. Remember, who had that connection issue early on and kind of blinked out of the pack. There goes him. He goes flying right on by on that outside line. And here comes the 24, Devin Hall. He peeks to the outside. Maybe tried to get a little bit of a draft off him. Thought maybe he wants to go, but no, he gets right back in line.
You would think that we're probably going to see these drivers just sort of hang around for the next, call it 10, 15 laps, especially since this group is so small. The biggest thing for them is going to be to stick together and work the same way, because you go all the way back to James Houghton and Jacob Harberts and Jonathan Delaney, everybody that came down, they're running 2x2. And the biggest thing we need to watch for now is the lap times between this lead pack of about, call it maybe 9 trucks, and then everybody else that's behind running double file in the main pack.
So in this lead pack, we have a couple of different strategies. Your top three in Conrad, Klein, and Devin Hall, they pitted 22 laps ago, so back around lap 16. Everybody else in this pack, Holmes, Diallo, Torres, Huffman, and Knobloch, they pitted on lap 9. So they are going to pit here, fourth on back, within the next 5 laps or so, to try and, well, they're going to have to because they're going to run out of fuel, but at this point they're trying to save as much as they can here in the draft.
Yeah, this is, what we were talking about at the top of the show was just, this is the tame part, we're kind of in that home stretch a little bit, just trying to keep all the trucks clean and, trying to hang on for a run at the win.
Garrett Conrath is your leader. More pit stops on the way. Halfway is also coming up here in just 2 laps. We'll step aside. We're back after this here on FDF.GG. Stay with us. And we welcome you back here to Daytona. We are at the halfway point. We are past the halfway point here from Daytona in the first round of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. It's time to bring you the iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing. iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian Supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and much more. Your race leader right now is Garrett Conrath. Will Klein is in second, Devin Hall is in third. Then it's Omar Diallo, Jared Torres, Jimmy Holmes, Landon Huffman, Justin Knobloch sitting in eighth, Eugene Monsganov in ninth, and Dustin Montgomery rounding out the top 10.
Blaze Crawford currently in 11th position. 12th belongs to Lucas Graham. Jacob Herbert's rides in 13th at this time. 14th is Dmitry Anaseyev. Brian Schoenberg in 15th. 16th belongs to Ashton Crowner. Steele Langford running the 17th position. Barrett Bonner in 18th. 19th is Dustin Monmarquette. And 20th, Caleb Hoffman, is James Houghton.
Yeah, and then you got Jesse Schwartz and Jonathan Delaney in the 21st and 22nd position. Kyle Myers. Will Cooley's kind of fallen back after running up front earlier. We got Matthew Thunhurst in the 25th position. Michael Rosero, Trevor Edwards, Connor Horn, Brandon McKissick, Joseph, Eduardo Oliveira, Wyatt Tinsley, Michael P. Frisch in 33rd. Poor run for him today so far. Botafogo after his spin earlier, and then Jacob Hall rounds out the field in 35th.
That concludes tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break with over 200,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from. iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com. We've got to I thought for sure. Yeah, here they come. I thought for sure they were going to pit during that. Instead, how nice. They waited until we were done with our race break. Now here comes the rest of our top 10, basically. Diallo, Torres, Holmes, Knobloch, and Huffman, who were the first to come to pit road. They're the first to come to pit road now here as well.
It's almost like they were watching the broadcast now, wasn't it, Jacob? Just being very convenient and trying to tell it all night. So thank you to the drivers for making their pit stops very convenient. But again, these drivers are in a really, really good position if we stay green flag racing. You always love the idea of the undercut if you've got an extended run or two, and this will only serve to help them, though. I don't mind the position that Conrath and Klein and Devin Hall are in as well. Everybody else has sort of followed off. The James Houghtons and the Barrett Bonners that came in with them are buried back in that big pack, as is Brian Schoenberg. So it's really just Conrath, Klein, and Hall 1, 2, 3 that I think have the pit strategy advantage, in addition to those who just came down pit road.
And look how unorganized of a mess this second pack is. They are barely gaining time on the leaders. There are 4 of them in this lead pack. 4 of them. One of them's a lapper, then Conrath, Klein, and Hall. And then you've got 10, 15 trucks lined up here, and they just cannot close in. They're starting to slowly but surely now. The gap has reeled in a bit. It was 15 seconds, but when it was just an 8-9 car pack, 9 truck pack rather, the leaders were just pulling away.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of confusing almost. Like, why is this pack, why are they so, determined to run double file right now? There's no real advantage to it in my eye. So, I mean, trying to just see if they do get back single file to really commit to gaining time on this lead pack, or maybe expecting, a wreck or a caution to punch the field back up.
Coming to... Well, okay, so this second pack here, these are not the leaders. This is the fourth one back. They just got to 34 laps to go here. The actual leaders are over in turn 2 right now. Let's take a look at our qualifying iRacing series schedule, because it gets interesting after Daytona. In 2 weeks from tonight, we go to Las Vegas. Second split in Las Vegas, we had a photo finish between Santiago Tires and Nicholas Shelton, who's now in the Coke Series. Going to be a lot of fun when we head to Vegas 2 weeks from now. And then we go to Atlanta, then Richmond, Bristol, Pavement, then Dover, Kansas, Charlotte to wrap up the season. Then we get to the end of trouble. Turn 3. One truck gets sideways. What a save. I think they're all going to hang on, and they do. That's the second pack. One truck was not clear, and it's calamity. What a job by these guys, though, to prevent bringing out the caution.
I think, and that was just Dmitry Anaseyev, and it was close. It was Anaseyev and I believe Dustin Montgomery that got together, and it was close. I thought Anaseyev actually had the room to make the move, and then just got into him, and then everybody stacked up behind him, and somehow, some way, we are still green flag racing, though honestly, I'm not quite sure how.
Let's get a replay here, because my jaw hit the floor when they started getting turned, because I heard somebody overcome say trouble, 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 and that's immediately when I looked back up and saw the contact right here.
Man, that is a Kyle Busch-esque save from like 4 or 5 different trucks there. Oh my goodness. How are we still green flag?
Well, and now the pack is splintering apart. Here comes half a dozen trucks, maybe more, coming onto pit road, and they're all going to make it for the most part. Schoenberg, Houghton, Bonner, Swartz, Delaney, Will Cooley is on pit road. Joseph, he overshot his box, but he's on pit road. So a lot of that second pack now deciding that now's the time to hit the buzzer and come onto pit road, while the lead pack now is made up of 5 trucks. 2 of them are a lap down, 3 of them on the lead lap in the lead, and here's this second pack that has had to reorganize. Your leaders coming to pit road right now.
So everybody's syncing up. They're outside of the drivers that just came down 14, 15 laps ago. So we almost have a very clear sort of A strategy and a B strategy, the old strategy that we're working with. And it's going to be interesting to see where these 3 drivers, Klein, Conrath, and Hall in particular, land in comparison to the rest of this field, as the group that came down and just ran it dry on that first green flag run now takes over the race lead.
Ashton Crowder started 3rd. He now leads the first race of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series season. He is the man with the plan out in front. Dustin Montgomery sits in second, then Trevor Edwards and Dustin oh, brother, I'm going to stumble over that name. I think all season long.
Parlez-vous français, monsieur Hitz.
Oh, there you go.
Mamborcat. It's just I'm not used to it. There's the Q in there, so many letters. My brain hasn't gotten used to it yet. By week 8, I'll be perfect. I'll be fluent in his last name.
You got to run
until that point. Until that point, bear with me. That's all I'm saying.
He's even got an E in there, so you can do it like Spencer E. Burns' name. Dustin E. Montblanquet. Yeah. It works, right?
Montblanquet.
Just more for me to say, right? Like I don't have enough.
Montblanquet.
Yeah, Dustin E. Montblanquet. There you go.
Oh, that was smooth.
Ooh, okay.
Yep.
He's in chat. he's in chat for Jacob Hitz and Dustin Montblanquet.
Yep. Alrighty, so what's the plan here? For these guys that are up at the front, we saw them almost wrecked now. There's a little bit of damage to the back bumper of Dustin Montgomery's truck on the right rear. You just ride around till we get to your last pit stop?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to mention is, that's a big thing to monitor there is, some of these guys now up in this lead pack are going to have some damage from, what it is, multiple run-ins now. So just one big thing to monitor is, how's that damage going to affect, Dustin Montgomery here, who's second on the inside.
And how much this could impact fuel, not only for Crowder, but for the 18 of Dustin E. Montblanquet, darn it. I keep wanting to say Mobangui. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's not what's there.
Dustin Montblanquet.
That's going to keep me awake at night now, is his last name, till we get to Las Vegas.
Again, it's French, y'all. It's French. If you know French, it's easy.
I took 5 years of French in high school. That doesn't help me.
That only makes it worse.
I know. 2 trucks coming to pit road here. It's going to be Dmitry Esenev and Eugene Mozganov. 2 names that just roll right off the tongue for me instead of Montblanquet. But he now leads up on that outside line. We keep talking about him like Beetlejuice. He's just arisen here, and he's now trying to pull this outside line to the front.
Going from Russian names to French names, right? We're globetrotting all over the world here on FTFGG.
And Jacob with the Beetlejuice reference, oh my goodness.
If you watch any broadcast of mine, you'll know that I have about 4 references. And if you say somebody's name enough, Beetlejuice is probably going to come out.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Have we reached our quota yet?
Quota of what is the question?
This is a good question. I know we've not hit our quota of yellow flags, which who knows?
Right.
Maybe I need to just do. All right, just in case. I don't want to be responsible for that.
We have a truck upside down on the backstretch now. Thanks, Pike.
Sorry, guys. My bad.
27 to go here from Daytona. Ashton Crowder continues to lead. I would think in about 18 laps or so is when we're going to see much of this lead pack pull the trigger and come on to pit road. The question now has to be the guys that just pitted. Conrath, Klein, and Devin Hall, who are leading this thing, can they make it to the end? Are we sure they can make it to the end? I'm not so sure. It's going to be close.
I think you're fine, Caleb. Probably 5 laps, run it back to 49, so a 31-lap run to end it. You should be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but one thing I'm kind of taking a look at here is Ashton Crowder, who's in the lead. He was behind a few of those trucks that wrecked. He was kind of content just riding around, maybe saving fuel a little bit, and now he's out here leading this pack, which is probably not exactly what he planned for. So I'm just interested to see if that's going to throw a wrench into what his race strategy is here, or how we're going to play out.
Down the back straightaway. And an outside line again, just falling apart. Momborquette up there, and you got the 12 of Jacob Harberts. It's pretty much those two just kind of trying to tandem up top. Everybody else is downstairs here in this lead pack.
But you're going to want a yellow if you're these leaders. I think no question. Anybody in the top 13 spots that came in on the regular cycle, they're going to lose out to the drivers who pitted early if they don't get a yellow flag. That's just how this is setting up. It is positioned beautifully for Garrett Conrath, Will Klein, and Devin Hall in particular. That trio, I think, controls the strategy of this entire race so long as we don't have a yellow flag.
I appreciate the people that said no in the prediction of will we get a caution before halfway. I put in 7.7 thousand channel points. I now have 8,000. Thank you very much.
Grinding channel points, Jacob.
Big time moneymaker, Jacob Hits over here. What should I put I'd say, where's my next parlay bet coming in? Tell me the answer to that.
Well, I think we need to have a discussion here on air. What should we put as our next prediction here? Because we're coming close now to 20 laps to go.
This is a good question.
Definitely an over-under on how many cars are going to be, or trucks are going to be upside down by the end of this race. I'm still taking an over on, 2 or 3 at this point. I mean, I'm still expecting the big one. We haven't gotten it yet tonight, and I'm still expecting it to rear its ugly head at some point.
More important question, Caleb. How are you spelling truck when you do that?
Definitely QUE for Jacob.
I did not expect that, but I appreciate that. That works. That works. TRQUE, truck? Okay. Truck. Momborquette truck. The truck of Momborquette, who happens to be in second, by the way, since we're, while we're sitting here. He's got control of that outside lane, and he's got help from behind in the form of Jacob Harberts.
Yeah, this outside line, they fell back to about 5th or 6th, and now they're right back up there in this lead conversation. Who says the two truck tandem doesn't work anymore? These guys are trying to go all the way with it.
Yeah, I was going to make a jab at Pike there because he was like, the outside lane. And I was going to be like, what outside lane? But here they are. I mean, they're proving me wrong. They're showing up.
And here is our new prediction. How many trucks, spelled TRUQUES, will flip in the big one? 0 to 1 or 2 or more? Place your bets now. You've got inside 2 minutes to place your bets.
Where's the Jeopardy music? We're getting DMCA'd easy.
All right, 22 laps to go. Here from Daytona, still side by side for the lead. Crowder downstairs leading this long line of trucks downstairs. And then you got Momborquette, just party of 2 up top with Harberts, and they are hanging right alongside.
And look at Caleb, look at how well these two are working together. Well, okay, of course I say that, and then they almost turn each other down the back straightaway. But that's, if you're on the outside, that's what you have to do. That's the kind of commitment you have to have, which I'm amazed that they've been able to hang near the front for as long as they have, because if you're really going to make this work in like the last 2-3 laps, you're going to have to basically be through somebody's rear bumper and willing to shoot your engine temps to the absolute moon, because the inside line is going to have so much momentum. You could do it, but it's going to be tricky.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at these two up on the high side, they're spreading apart now, of course, as soon as I want to mention it. But like you said, they're just buried in each other's bumpers, and it's been, keeping them together so far on the high side here. It looks like they're spreading apart a little bit, and they're falling back, but then right again off turn 2, bury yourself in that front bumper, and you're going to, make moves on the backstretch.
Coming to 20 laps to go here at Daytona. As we continue to just whittle down the clock here in this race and see really what we've got left here in this thing. We know that most of the field is going to have to pit. before this thing is said and done. The question is, when does it happen?
You would think within the next 10 laps. These drivers in the lead anywhere from 25 to 28 laps on their stint, so no more than 10, probably less than that, which means you're going to expect everybody in before lap 70, and the question will be how well does the splash of fuel go for each and every one of them. They're going to have to find a way to equal the stops that all those cars that, or trucks rather, if we're really playing that game, but they all came in early. You're going to have to essentially match the pit stop that Klein and company made right at the beginning of this race. The problem is that just with the extra momentum and the way undercuts work, that Klein, Hall, and group, and Conrath in there too. I was trying to remember who the third one was, but that group, there's an inherent advantage to doing that earlier as opposed to later. So it's going to be on this group to have to come back together and then catch back up to them and potentially race them for the win. Not impossible, but you're definitely playing with the weaker hand.
19 laps to go are upcoming here on FTF.GG. Well, it looks a little bit like this. The Barn Visual FTF Cup Series is back a week from Saturday from Auto Club, 9:45 p.m. Eastern Start Time out west in California. Then Sunday, the next night, February 27th, 8 o'clock Eastern Start Time, the Winsdale Gen 4 Challenge from Daytona. As we've got pit stops, here come a couple of trucks onto pit road, 4 of them to be precise. Kyle Myers is one, Brandon McKissick, Connor Horn, Michael Rosario come onto pit road, plus 2 weeks from tonight, Thursday, March 1st. No, that's March 3rd, how about? Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. In the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. You'll see all of that and much more here on FTF.GG, and the three of us will be here with you from virtual Las Vegas in 2 weeks' time. And if it's anything like the race that we saw a season ago, we are in for an incredible show 2 weeks from tonight.
Show? You sure?
Oh, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, Las Vegas is going to be fun for sure. I mean, those intermediates really do shake up the schedule a lot, and a big change of pace from what we've seen tonight so far, which has been, surprisingly a really calm race. Not sure if we were, really expecting that, but that'll be fun for sure.
Also, no, we didn't get the chance. I don't know if we can get the schedule back up for a little bit because we got a little bit of time, but remember that we may be looking at New Atlanta. We don't know whether or not we're going to get New Atlanta in the March build, but at some point, we are going to get a New Atlanta Motor Speedway with reconfiguration. So if we get New Atlanta as opposed to Old Atlanta in the March build, then that changes that race entirely. But even if it's Old Atlanta, it's going to be a lot of fun because it's a tire wear track. It's very much a driver's track. You can race that track the way you want to in its current state, and you'll see a lot of comers, a lot of goers, but a lot of skill regardless.
Well, I would think just because NASCAR is going to be at Atlanta that following weekend, I've got a hunch that it's going to be New Atlanta when we go there for the qualifying iRacing series.
But of course, the important thing to remember, we don't know. That's the tough thing, I think, for these drivers is they're trying to plan the schedule out. Nobody knows whether or not that's going to be the Atlanta we've known for pretty much the entirety of the sim, or whether or not we get the new version of Atlanta to come in.
And the other problem is, too, you've practiced for so long on the old racetrack, and then they change it from you, and you only get, if they update it on a Tuesday, you're only going to get 2 days to prepare for a race. I know some drivers wouldn't be happy with that.
Take a day off work. Simple.
Well, right.
Just give yourself the opportunity to burn through, 1,000 laps if you need to, just to get a feel for that place and figure out how you need to run it. There's going to be tons of grip, no doubt about it. So it's almost going to be, I hate to think throttle management more than anything else, but you worry about how things will handle there. And especially, I think back to when Las Vegas was reconfigured. And that first year, how the track had so much grip that there was chatter on corner exit. And the track essentially caught the tires, especially in the then Nationwide series. But it spun people out because it had so much grip. If you think about it, I wonder if we're going to deal with that when New Atlanta finally shows up here, too.
More pit stops. The leader, Craddock. Everybody in this lead pack is coming onto pit road. Look out for wide they make it. Money stop time with 15, now 14 laps to go. And just another note on Atlanta, the Coke Series is running there 2 days before this. I would think they would be running on New Atlanta for the Coke Series, but there's only one way to find out, and that's in a month when we go to Atlanta Motor Speedway and we figure it all out. Garrett Conrath is your leader. He has already pitted, and you have a whopping 11 drivers on the lead lap here in this lead pack, but there's about a 2-3 truck length break between Omar Diallo, who's in fourth, and Devin Hall, who's in third.
But let's call this what this is now. This is your pack racing for the win if we don't get another yellow flag, because you look at everybody that just came down pit road, they are well back of this group. Remember how we had Montgomery and Monbourquette up front? They're now back to 27th and 28th, and they're a solid 25 seconds behind the race leaders. So the green flag gamble for these guys, it was a big gamble up front for Conrath and Klein and Hall to come down so early when they did, but this is going to pay off handsomely if we don't get a yellow. But again, that's a big if. And I want to stress that, if.
Black flag for the 18 of Monbourquette. Speeding, coming onto pit road. So the 18 are coming off pit road, rather. He's in the box now, serving his penalty. So Dustin E. Monbourquette not going to finish on the lead lap, and in fact, he right now the only driver in the field 1 lap down. Everybody else is on the lead lap. That is unbelievable for a race at Daytona. 12 to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know he's got to be kicking himself right now, because that's the last pit stop. All you have to do is get through that, and then you're home free. All it is, it's Daytona. It's the ultimate wild card at that point. But now you don't even have a shot, because you've kind of taken yourself out unless we get a caution here and he can get back on the lead lap.
Coming to 11 laps to go, and this lead pack single file throughout. The question now, I think, James, has to be, when are you going to make the move to start making an outside line? As a couple are going to pit here at the back of this pack. That includes Frisch, Tinsley, and Eduardo Oliveira, who had yet to pit. They are now on pit road, which is going to leave just 8 trucks left in this lead pack.
So who makes the move and when? They're going to ride for a little bit. They have no reason to race after each other until you get to about maybe 5 laps to go, I think. They have no reason to try and go after each other. They have no reason to try and break this group up. So they're going to try and just push on through with this. The real question, I think, is going to be what you get with, you got to go back even a little bit, probably to like Brandon McKissick or so, back in the 13th position. He's the leader of the first pack that's got any form of 2-wide racing. You see it on your screens here. This is the group that needs to really start racing. This is the group where we could get a yellow as people try and jockey for position. We've got people looking to the outside already. So this is the group I think you have to keep your eye on. If we get some sort of yellow, it's probably coming from here.
These guys behind Conrath, Klein, and Hall. So Diallo, Holmes, Torres, Knobloch, Huffman. They're going to be dancing a fine line here, and I think that might be why you see them backing off. They're going to be right at the window of 36 laps at the end of this race here. It's way too close, as now Hall is blinking a bit, but gets it back. Trouble, huh? There was trouble. Where is this? This is turn 2, way in the back of the field. James Houghton has damage on the right front. Here's the replay. It's going into turn number 1. Whoa! I see. Yeah, trouble. Right there.
How many times have we seen that tonight, Jacob, where we've had about 3 or 4 different wrecks that should have been that weren't? And I'm almost beginning to wonder when we actually will have one.
It was a wreck, it just didn't bring out a caution. That's all we've seen so far tonight. As we're inside 10 to go, there are your leaders on the back straightaway with 9 laps to go, coming to 8 laps to go. The big question now has to be, where in this field could we see a yellow? How about 3 wide here in the back where they're racing for 26th coming off turn number 2? That could be a trouble spot.
I mean, honestly, I think the bigger question is, not where this caution is going to come from, but almost when this caution is going to come from. I mean, I feel like at some point we have to have one here. Oh, and we might almost get one there. They save it for right
back there with Crowder. And of course, Crowder, remember, he was leading earlier. Schoenberg is back in this, as well as James Houghton, who we talked about. Dustin Montgomery is back in this Eye of the Storm. Eugene Mozganov is in that as well. So these guys are getting really dicey, and they're racing for 26th.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to think up front at that lead pack for the win right now. When are they going to make their moves? You heard James say earlier, hey, we're going to go with 5 to go. But, I mean, we saw early on in that run how long it took, to get past Cram. 5 laps, might be too late, and I don't know if that's a chance you want to take here with 7 to go.
Look at these guys weaving through the ball trouble, turn 3. They're going to save it again. Are you kidding me? Matthew Thunhorst, a lapper. Not a lapper. He just got hip checked and saved it. That's unbelievable. These guys trying to thread these lap cars. Dmitry Esenev was one of them. That they were just trying to thread and get by, and they manage it. I don't know how. But once again, they saved the race trucks. We're coming to 6 laps to go, and we've got a 3-truck breakaway at the front again with Conrath, Klein, and Devin Hall.
Yeah, I mean, how many saves is that tonight? Like, I feel like we've had 7 or 8 big ones almost, waiting to happen, and then all of a sudden these guys channel every bit of talent that's ever existed on the iRacing platform to even these trucks back out. I mean, this has been unbelievable tonight.
I'm scared to just look around this field, just because every time I do, there's always something that's just lurking that isn't with the leaders. The leaders are oddly calm. Everybody else, I think, is just trying to catch the leaders any way they can. The problem is the second pack is losing time to the race leaders. They're now 20 seconds behind. 19 seconds between Huffman and McKissick. That's 8th and 9th. Will Cooley now leading that pack. 5 laps to go. One to hand from Barney at the flag stand for your race leader in Garrett Conrath.
And the last truck on the lead lap in the back of this pack, maybe the most famous driver in the whole of this field tonight, Landon Huffman, who I think ultimately might have the keys to the kingdom so far as when that final move is to come. Because he starts going, if he goes up top and gets a run on Justin Knobloch or Jared Torres in front of him, somebody could go with him. That may open up the second lane, and we may have that door-to-door run to the end that I think we're sort of, at least I'm expecting to come at some point here in the next 5 laps.
And a good point made from somebody in our ear. Every spot matters a ton because of points and how everything gets mixed together. Remember, you do get a drop week, and some people are going to take advantage of that since they can't be here. A lot of people down in actual Daytona, but you don't want to have to use your drop week on the first week because that puts the pressure on you for the rest of these 7 races and the rest of the season.
And points matter here too, Caleb. That's the big thing because you might need every single last point because remember, your point values that you pick up are affected depending on what split you're in. So if you can pick up points here, a little bit more useful than it would be, in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, or even 7th split or beyond.
Yeah, and I mean, again, going back to what we said earlier, there's no playoffs to fall back on here. This is legitimately just get as many points as you can, make it to the next round, survive above all else. So, how do you think that's playing into the minds of, the guys up front right now? You don't want to wreck your truck and, forsake all these points that you could possibly have. Maybe you are content riding around 2nd and 3rd, but, how much does that competition aspect of wanting to be the winner at Daytona play into this right now with 3 laps to go?
I can't believe. If you would have told me that we would have made it 77 laps without a caution, I wouldn't have believed you. Even 30 laps ago, I wouldn't have believed you. Maybe even 10 laps ago, I wouldn't believe you. But we are now coming to 2 laps to go in this race. Garrett Conrath continues to lead, and this back of the pack. When in the world, guys, are they going to make the move? They're running out of time.
When do you go, Caleb? When do you go?
I don't know. Like, I'm watching right here, and it's like you'll start to see the number 14 Will Klein peek out a little bit, and you're like, oh, that's the move. But then he falls back in line, and now these 3 trucks have, broken away. You feel like that's a safety blanket. You can fall back in line. Is here we go? Maybe no. They're gonna just.
No, there they go. There's Huffman and Knobloch on the top line there, Jacob. They're trying to make a run on the outside, but they don't have enough help, I think, and no one's going with them.
I cannot believe that they're just going to ride around here and let things go. You would think they want to run for every point they can. Instead, we're coming through 3 and 4. Got another one peeking out there. That's Harbert's. Instead, they're going to stay downstairs, and this top 3 going to continue to push all the way to the white flag from Barney. 1 lap to go. At Daytona, we're going to make it wire to wire under green. Garrett Conrath with the lead. Will Klein in second. Devin Hall in third, back to 1.
Man, these guys are just not glued to each other like I thought they would be. We'll see coming down the backstretch here how big of a jump this outside line gets, but I'm just not sure if it's going to be enough to catch this 3-truck breakaway at the front of the field.
Somebody in this 3-truck breakaway is going to have to step out, James.
Somebody's going to have to step out. Knobloch's got the run. There is a move, I believe. Devin Hall thought about it, then thought better of it, and tucked back in line. Knobloch's going to have the run. There goes Will Klein to the high line. Can they get around Conrath coming to the line?
They're almost going to wreck. Knobloch gets put in the wall. Cooley gets sideways. Conrath with the help downstairs. He's going to win the first race in the second split of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing Series season. Then it was Devin Hall, Will Klein in third, Landon Huffman and Timmy Holmes with a top 5. Things just fell apart and too many battles up at the front. Here comes the next pack. Connor Horn going to lead them across the line. Here comes this fragmented third pack. They chase it across the line. And after all of that, Garrett Conrath is your winner and opens the season with a dub.
Really good work there from Conrath. And as I look at that final lap, and especially coming out of 4, I can't disagree with the timing, I think, especially from Klein's part. It's just, it's almost like Knobloch decided he didn't want to help, and when he decided he didn't want to push Will Klein, that pretty much just settled the whole thing for Conrath there, because if Klein gets the push from Knobloch, we may have a different story at the finish. Klein timed his move just about as perfectly as you could, arguably maybe a little bit early, because it gave Knobloch just enough room to avoid actually trying to push him. And then they all got together coming out of 4, and it killed the runs and made it pretty easy for Conrath to finish this off.
And do you think maybe waiting to make the move coming off turn 4 is predictable enough that no matter who the leader is, they're going to be able to block it and keep their truck clean? It also helped that Conrath had a friend in Devin Hall who just stayed glued to his back bumper.
That definitely helped, no doubt about it. But yeah, looking back at that, it's hard. You almost are stuck in a rock between a hard place there with your Klein, because you did what you had to do. You had to go high, but how early do you go, and how much room do you leave to make sure that you don't end up in the situation where he just did, where there was enough time for everybody behind him, Knobloch and Huffman, to not latch onto his rear bumper, and how late is too late to where you get turned, just like Logano did in the duel just a few moments ago.
Yeah, Joe Logano got turned racing for the lead on the last lap. Chris Buescher winning that second duel. All I can think of is, go figure, crash on the last lap. Who wins? James Buescher. Not quite. Chris Buescher in the 17. RFK Racing sweeping the duels. They'll start 3rd and 4th in the Daytona 500 on Sunday. Meanwhile, here in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series from Daytona, wire to wire, green flag racing, all 80 laps. These drivers should give themselves a pat on the back. They did a great job tonight, and I hope they keep it up next week 2 weeks from now in Las Vegas. Garrett Conrath, your winner. Devin Hall in second. Then Will Klein, Landon Huffman, Timmy Holmes, your top 5. Justin Knobloch, Jared Torres, Omar Diallo, Connor Horn, and Will Cooley rounding out the top 10.
Jesse Swartz came home in the 11th position. 12th went to Brandon McKissick. Jonathan Delaney brought it home 13th. 14th went to Kyle Myers. Michael Rosero finished in the 15th position. 16th went to Joseph. Trevor Edwards finished 17th. 18th went to Ashton Crowder. Dustin Montgomery and Steele Langford completed the top 20.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at 21st here. Brian Schoenberg, Barrett Bonner in 22nd, Dmitry Anasiv in the 23rd spot, Blaze Crawford 24th, Eugene Mazgunov in 25th, Lucas Cram 26th, Wyatt Tinsley 27th after 1 and 2 start for those two, Michael P. Frisch 28th, Eduardo Oliveira in 29th, James Houghton in 30th, 1 lap down. Daniel Buttafuoco, Jacob Harberts, Matthew Thunhurst, Jacob Hall, and then Dustin E. Momborcat. Take that one, Jacob.
I heard the sigh in there when you got to that last page of 5. Don't you? You can't fool me with that. Come on now.
Yeah, well, to be fair, actually, no, not to be fair. My God, got all the names on that one.
You made it to the end, and that's what matters. So, let's talk with some people. How about our race winner, Garrett Conrath, wire to wire, green flag racing. You guys kind of made the plan there to pit early, and it worked to perfection.
Yeah, yes it did. I have to thank my Nexus teammates there. We got the 1, 2, 3. Our other teammate, Jacob Hawley, unfortunately had a thing on the pit road that hurt him, but yeah, it was worked the strategy to perfection.
How much do you think a caution? There were a lot of incidents that maybe could have resulted in a caution, but everybody was able to keep it straight and keep it green. How much do you think a caution kind of would have taken the wind out of the sails of your strategy for this race?
Yeah, I've never knocked on wood harder in my life, because that's the last thing we wanted there is a yellow flag, and thankfully it kept it green all the way. It was a lot of fun.
Looking ahead, Las Vegas in 2 weeks. We've been there before. This time last year, the first race of the qualifying series last year. How much of last year are you able to take into the race coming up in 2 weeks?
Quite a bit, I think. Vegas is usually a good track for me. I got a top 10 there last year in second split also, so hopefully to carry that momentum and see where it takes us.
Well, Garrett, congratulations on the race win tonight. Certainly helping your cause for moving on through these next 7 races. Best of luck from Vegas in 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll see you then.
Thank you, guys.
Garrett Conrath, your race winner tonight from Daytona. Let's talk with our second place finisher, Devin Hall, with Caleb Hoffman.
Devin, man, congrats there. Caution free, obviously, the big story coming in tonight. We were asking up here in the booth, have these guys even really planned for green flag pit stops? I mean, did that throw a wrench into your night at all?
It just a little bit. We kind of had a plan going into it. We were concerned because we didn't have a ton of cars on the team, so we didn't know what kind of speed we would have in the draft, just with the 3 of us. But once we got 6 or 7 cars and kind of got a train rolling and started seeing the lap times we were putting down, we knew we were in good shape. All I can do here is thank Jacob Hall. He put one heck of a rocket together. That thing was, compared to what the lead pack was running, that thing was flying, man. I couldn't believe the times we were putting down.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just want to take a look at that last lap again. When that outside lane had formed, was making their run, what was kind of the thought process for you going down the backstretch there? We saw you kind of make a move up, then kind of think about it. What was going through your mind?
So we had talked about that for a little bit. We knew those guys were going to be short on fuel based on how early they pitted, so we didn't know how hard they could push. I think the lap before, I told Klein that he could go ahead and jump to the outside if the situation arose and go for the win. I wasn't leaving Conrad's bumper. And ideally, we wanted to get Nexus a 1, 2, 3 finish, and it couldn't have worked out more perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your time, and congrats tonight. Great run for you.
Thank you. We'll try to carry it forward to the next one.
Thank you, Caleb. Now let's talk with third place finisher. It's going to be Will Klein. He gets to talk with James Blake.
Will Klein comes home P3, and Will, just middle of the back to the line. Take us through your decision-making process and what you were trying to do at the end of that race.
I think the top mission was to get us to finish top 3, and we did that. So I'd say job well done. In the back of my head, I kind of thought maybe I should try for the win, but mostly that move was to block the lane, or block the run from the top lane, and it worked. So we're really happy.
So you weren't necessarily even not that you're not trying to win, but it was more about securing that top 3 finish and making sure that you get enough points. And to you, how much do points mean in second split of the first round? And how significant is it to you to make sure that you get a good point start here at Daytona?
Oh, it's huge, especially. It's the same as finishing like 4th and top split. And, the higher the split, the more points you're getting. So, it's a plus.
And you can almost bank this. We talked at the very top of the broadcast about how with the way the schedule pans out this year, Daytona almost adds an extra date to the round 1 schedule because it comes earlier than it ever has before. And this almost now counts as a wild card of sorts. And now you can take this as a wild card, a podium finish at Daytona, and roll on to the momentum with Las Vegas. Does that give you a little bit more breathing room as we enter the intermediate portion of the schedule in March?
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's great not to have Daytona as a drop week or something else. If something goes wrong, you don't have to think on a prior race, be like, what could I have done differently? So, it's great to get off on the right foot.
Will, congratulations on your podium finish. Thanks for chatting with us at FTFTG, and we look forward to seeing you in Vegas in 2 weeks' time.
All right. Thank you, James.
Will Klein with a happy P3 indeed, Jacob.
What a finish. I still can't get over the fact, as we come back to the screen. Hi, there we go. I can't believe that we made it 80 laps caution-free tonight.
I've seen it. I've seen it at Daytona before. It's rare, but it happens. But it's really, really intriguing. And yes, I feel like people can forget that, you can have caution-free races at Daytona, but look at what Conrath and Hall and Klein did. They big-brained everybody else and decided to come down early and made it work for them, and it ended up paying off in the end.
And Caleb, we certainly had a wild race tonight. I mean, yeah, there was contact, there was beating and banging, but certainly we saw the action come to fruition there on that last lap.
Yeah, I mean, just, recapping through the race, you think, there should have been cautions. We did get caution free, but there was so much going on. We still had that amount of action. We had cars sideways, we had cars beating and banging, we had the leader get turned, no caution for it. I mean, how can you just anticipate that? I mean, just overall, a really fun night here at Daytona.
I mean, out of everybody, we had 29 cars on the lead lap, 29 trucks on the lead lap. Only one person was more than 1 lap down, and it was Mamboquet, who we saw have that pit road speeding penalty. That's it. With a caution in there, maybe he gets back into this race. Instead, he finishes 35th.
It's a big one. It's a tough one. I guess the silver lining is that the same way that Will Klein can be elated because he gets to essentially use this as a wild card or almost as an anti-drop, Mamboquet can sort of treat this as his drop. And, somebody was always going to have to factor in not having a good finish at Daytona, not necessarily of their own accord, but just because that's sort of the way things happen. Somebody that ends up being pretty significant in the picture ends up getting hurt pretty early on. It's the same thing with the playoffs. You go back to the beginning of the chase, even in 04, and there was always one driver that had to battle back from a bad start. Unfortunately for Dustin, that's him in this qualifying iRacing series, but there's time. And that, I think, is the most important thing, especially if you believe in your intermediate program. You'll be able to make those points up pretty quickly.
And we hit at least one intermediate track next time in 2 weeks when we go to Las Vegas. There's kind of we don't know what Atlanta is going to look like in a month. If I had to guess, and this is purely a guess, I don't have the answer. I have a feeling we're going to be at the new track, but we could be at the old track. Either way, I think these drivers are going to have to be prepared to run either format, even though they may not be used to the new and improved Atlanta Motor Speedway until it gets put out there.
And in either case, Caleb, we're going to have a really, really good race because, like we said, you've either got the driver's track of Atlanta that we know, or you're going to have all these unknowns with the new Atlanta that everybody's going to be interested to see how it pans out because, nobody's got a notebook for the place.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it all boils down to at this point is, we don't know one way or the other what challenges are going to lie ahead in these next few weeks here. So, you just got to be open-minded and plan for everything. How are we going to tackle, whatever it is comes our way here in the next, few weeks?
Garrett Conrath is your winner tonight from Daytona to wrap up an incredible first race of the first round of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. I want to thank you so much for watching tonight. We all had a lot of fun as Garrett Conrath gets to burn down the house and put himself in a pretty solid spot looking ahead to Las Vegas in 2 weeks. Thanks to Justin Melillo, who was actually at Daytona covering 2 different races at the same time. He'll be on virtual pit road for us in 2 weeks at Las Vegas. For our producer, Zach Johnson, for Caleb Hoffman and James Pike alongside me, I'm Jacob Pitts. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks from Las Vegas. Good night.